Hello, Miami Dolphins fans, and thank you for listening to DolphinsTalk.com daily on this Wednesday. No, it's Thursday. It's Thursday, April the 1st. I'm so used to recording on Wednesday with you, and on this Thursday, April Fool's Day, April the 1st. And I promise we won't have any April Fool's jokes. We're going to do a serious show. And we are broadcasting live from the DolphinsTalk.com studios. Joining me as always is Ian Berger. Ian, how are you doing today?
Hey, Mike, happy Friday Eve. Happy April Fool's Day. Fortunately, you are not going to joke me. I tried to joke some people earlier with a mock draft that was a horrible mock draft, and I got some angry people that didn't realize it was April 1st. So I had to calm them down a little bit.
I saw your mock draft, and according to some people in the national media, they would love it actually. So I don't know. We'll talk about that later, though. First bit of news. Let's start off with the news. First bit of news was on Thursday, because it is Thursday, the Miami Dolphins signed defensive tackle John Jenkins to a one-year contract. John Jenkins was here with the Miami Dolphins in 2019, Brian Flores' rookie year. He actually started 5 of 11 games that year, and he played well. Is he a superstar? No, but he's a guy who you put in that rotation with Raekwon Davis, Zach Sealer, Christian Wilkins, Adam Butler, who they just signed this year, who will help significantly. He is a true nose tackle / defensive tackle, and he really is a true nose tackle. So when Miami does go into a 3-4 and they do need a true nose tackle, he fits that role to a T, and he can stop the run. He's not going to get you sacked and all that stuff. When it comes to stopping the run, he's a guy who's going to help out a lot. And also he's over 30 years old, Ian, which we don't see a lot of those down in South Florida. Over 30 years old. So he might. I don't know if he's the only player on the team over 30 or
yes, he is, I believe.
I think so. He's the only player over 30 as of right now at 31. What were your thoughts on the Miami Dolphins signing John Jenkins?
I think it's a good move for a backup player. I don't anticipate him starting games. I do anticipate him being a rotation player. Obviously, this is someone that Coach Flores really liked the first time around. If you think about when he was with the Dolphins the first time around, what do we go 0-7 or 0-9 to start that season, right? And that was the season we ended with 5-11. Mm-hmm. The fact that we ended the season at 5-11 and Jenkins was part of that, I think was something that really stayed with Coach Flores. And there is this opportunity for him to resign, and he resigned. So 31 years old, oldest guy on the team. He's gonna, and he's gonna be fighting for playing time if some of these other guys do well, and if we also draft a defensive tackle that will be able to jump in there as well, which, we're talking about an edge rusher as being a top need, which I know we'll talk about a little later, but he may not get a lot of minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. But John Jenkins is a nice rotational piece. The fact they got him for 1 year, nice signing. Can't really complain about that. Other news from earlier this week is the NFL obviously announced the 17th game to the 2021 season, which is not a shock. It's going to be 17 games every year, folks. When they add something, they never take it away. So 17 games is here to stay. They're never going to take it away. And that 17th game for the Dolphins is the New York Giants, and it's at home. So how this is going to work is to be fair to all teams. And so the tiebreakers in both the AFC and the NFC are fair each year. 1 year, like this upcoming year in 2021, all the AFC teams will get the extra home game. The next year, all the NFC teams get the extra home game. So say Miami and someone else is tied for the final playoff spot. It wouldn't be fair if one of those teams had one extra home game, one had one extra road game. So they want to keep it the same in conference. And it makes total sense. So this year, Miami gets that 9th home game. It's against the New York Giants. Also, every 8 years, your team will play one game overseas. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be a home game you lose. You're playing one team overseas. So every 8 years, everybody, 32 teams are taking their turn. Nobody can get out of it now. Now, some teams will have to give up a home game, obviously, but everyone's going overseas. And what this means, because I actually talked to someone, as I told you the other night, in the NFL league office. That's right. Someone in the NFL league office saw one of my tweets, and it was slightly incorrect of this new rule. So they reached out, and I got the scoop, and I got the information. Because of this new rule, if you want to host a Super Bowl like we have in the past, one of the prerequisites to hosting a Super Bowl was you had to give up a home game in the next 3 to 4 years. That rule is now gone.
Nice.
So for the Dolphins, who always want to host Super Bowls every so many years, and for Mr. Ross, he can now host one. They're still going to have to go overseas, but maybe they're not going to part with a home game. Maybe they're will have play one game overseas like normal, but they're the road team potentially. Now, maybe they're the home team, but potentially they could be the road team. So that's great. And with COVID this year, it's still part of our world. I would doubt we see any international games. So I think they're going to get a true 9 home game schedule for the Miami Dolphins this year, because I can't see any games being moved overseas, Ian.
Yeah, I will tell you too that I love the fact that we're getting a 17th game in the season. I'm one of those people that goes to every game, either it be a preseason game or regular season game at Hard Rock. You know, when you go to a preseason game, the stadium is usually about half filled. So there's an opportunity there to have that extra game. So maybe we only go to one home preseason game, and then that next one is going to be the start of the regular season. I would much prefer that. And I think the players honestly would much prefer that too, you know, because there was a lot of talk in the prior years about players playing in the preseason for nothing and getting season ending injuries. I know we went through a couple of seasons where there were some top tier players that were getting injured in the preseason. So yeah, they're still going to get an opportunity. And let's think about this for a second. Your first preseason game, you'll probably get your starters in there for maybe a series or two, as you normally would, right? Your second preseason game, that might be the game where your starters are in there for 3 quarters, which would usually be your third game, right? And then the third game of the preseason this year, that will be when you only start your young guys that you're trying to determine who's going to stay on the roster and who's not going to stay on the roster. So I love this new policy. I think the players like it too. And I'm excited about it. And as you mentioned too, there are going to be some games overseas. I know we have a lot of individuals from overseas that watch the show, that interact with us, that we really, really appreciate. It does hurt me to lose a game at Hard Rock Stadium, but I love seeing Wembley Stadium or those stadiums in the UK or when they have them in Mexico and the place is just jam packed. It just shows you how popular the NFL has become in places outside of the United States. So anyway, I also just want to say thank you to everybody who's making comments. We may not be showing every single one of them, but we are seeing them as they're scrolling on our page. So keep on adding them. We will pop some up as we have an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely, we will. But yeah, you're right. And how it works with the preseason game. So in the years you have 9 home games, you only get 1 home preseason games. In the years you have only 8 home games, you get 2 preseason home games. So they're going to have it so every team gets 10 home games a year, one way or another. And so it's actually a great plan, I think, and I think it makes a lot of sense. And there's a few players out there who don't want to play the extra regular season game. Nobody wants to hear from them. Honestly, nobody really wants to hear from them. It's one extra game. Nobody's asking them for a kidney or the one extra game. It's
Good
not
point.
that big a deal. Plus, most of these teams, if they got stuff already locked up, they're going to rest their guys extra now with the extra home game. So it's really not that big a deal. Let's talk about the fallout from last Friday, because I can't believe it's only been about a week, less than a week, from the big trades we saw last Friday between San Francisco, Miami, and the Eagles. As we said at the time, I know you were on with Tom, I was on with Josh. Great trade for the Dolphins. There's no way to put a negative spin on that at the end of the day. The Miami Dolphins came out like bandits here and picked up a bunch of extra picks, only really ended up sliding out from 3 to 6, and it's just great. You can't put a negative spin on it, and anyone who does really is just being negative for the sake of being negative. But I will say this, though, just sort of throwing caution to the wind and throwing it out there. Acquiring a bunch of draft picks is fantastic. It's great. It's a great way to build a team. But now the hard work comes in for Chris Greer. Because if he doesn't hit on these picks, now he doesn't have to bat 1,000. Nobody expects that. But if he doesn't really hit on these picks and turn them into stars and superstars, this really was all for nothing. And it ultimately will cost him his job. But so I'm just throwing it out there because you can acquire all the picks in the world. Cleveland, prior to them just becoming good, they did this for years. They kept trade. They had so many picks. And they'd go out there and pick Johnny Manziel, and they'd go out there and pick this guy and that guy. And they were still terrible. So acquiring picks is half the battle. Now we sort of shift and turn to turning these picks into quality players, and more than just guys who contribute, because we have so many picks, Ian. It's like some of these guys really got to be home run picks. Not all of them. That's unrealistic. No general manager is ever going to bat 1,000, and no and even Chris Greer shouldn't be held to that standard. But we really do need to hit on, and I'm talking about the ones in rounds 1 and 2. After rounds 1 and 2, there's a lot of luck involved with this stuff, and I do admit that. You can do all the research in the world, there's still a lot of luck. Rounds 1 and 2, you need to turn them into stars and superstars who contribute a lot. Not just guy, you can't have a bunch of Charles Harris's, Jason Allen's, Yatil Greens, and I know I'm going way back on some of those names because every team has them too. I get it. But we need more of the big name guys who are big time contributors.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to throw up a comment that I read as you were speaking, Mike, and this is my concern, right?
We're going to talk about that at the end of the show.
But my concern is that by trading to 6, you may not now have the choice of who you want. You may end up with that situation where you're stuck choosing your third or fourth option, which they had to be thinking of that when they made all these moves, right?
It's a calculated risk they took.
Correct. It's a risk that they took. This time last week we did our show and I ran through a mock draft and Kyle Pitts was option number 6, followed by, they were still available. I would call them the big 4, right? The big 4, the 3 wide receivers and the tight end. Yep. So they were all still available when it came down to the Miami Dolphins pick. But now, I know we're going to talk a little bit about about their pro days, but it's possible that that's just not going to be possible now that they had some really nice pro days. So, it is what it is. There's not much you can do to change the situation. Can the Dolphins trade down even more, or could the Dolphins trade down below the 18 pick? That's going to be interesting. But what I did mention to you last week as well was that's going to be one of those things that they're going to have to see how the draft goes, and I know we'll talk a little bit about what the needs are. So I'll save my comments.
And no, because everything you're saying is right. And we're going to get into that. Like, what's the worst case scenario for the Dolphins? And once again, nobody, and we say this all the time, nobody knows what Chris Greer has in mind. He might have someone else in mind. He might feel confident like Jalen Waddle's the guy I want no matter what. And I can, take him at 6, so I feel safe with this. We don't know what's in his mind. Just because all the fans want something doesn't mean we're going to get it, or doesn't mean we're on the same page as them. So we don't know what's in his mind, or he might think Rashawn Slater is the best left tackle he's ever seen in his life, and he wants him at number 6, so he felt safe just having to be at 6. We don't know. True. But I think the majority of people, though, around the NFL, do see Pitts and Chases like can't miss studs, and maybe it's 6 now. We're out on them, maybe, or we'll talk about that a bit. Next topic, not really a topic, to sort of piggyback off of what we did here. The national media, we don't talk about it a lot because, as I said over the past year, we could do a show every day criticizing some of the things we hear in the national media. And sometimes it's fair. Sometimes it's fair, and sometimes they deserve to be ripped, okay? They deserve to be ripped. Other times they don't. And we have 3 examples here which go all the way across the spectrum. Let's start off with the idiots of the world, Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman, who this week said some dopey things. And we have the videos of all this stuff on our website if you want to check it out. So go to dolphinstalk.com. I got this really bad allergy, Ian, and I am allergic to bullshit. And this is this is what this allergy is, because Max Kellerman starts off with the Miami Dolphins traded out of the 3 spot because they knew they couldn't get Zach Wilson. I mean, that's how he opened the segment. And then his partner just starts screaming and going off about how he's right, pretty much. It's like, are you kidding me? The Miami, if we've seen anything, maybe they would have gone after Watson. Maybe they still go after Watson if all that stuff gets cleared up. I don't know. But Zach Wilson, I guarantee you, is not on the Miami Dolphins radar, or pretty much any of these quarterbacks. So you want to have any comments about our good friends Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith saying maybe one of the stupidest things I've ever seen on TV, and that says a lot.
I hear you. And I'm just going to say exactly what I said when we were talking about who was the sports writer or the guy that we were talking about last week. Anyway, these guys, they get paid for clicks. They get paid to piss people off. They get paid to make guesses.
Here's the thing, though. I don't think he's trying to piss people off. I honestly think they truly believe this because they're on TV. There's no clicks. Yeah. They're on TV. And it's not for ratings, because if you want ratings, you're really not talking about the Miami Dolphins and Zach Wilson. I truly believe these people, those 2 at least, really believe this. They really in their head believe this.
And here's what we know, though. Here's the bottom line truth. Nobody knows anything.
Exactly.
Everybody thinks that they know what the Dolphins are doing. What we have learned in this offseason, the last couple of off seasons, is that Chris Grier, Coach Flores do not let any information out. They keep that thing locked up in a room. I swear they probably put the person they're talking to in a room and they lock the key behind them and say, don't you say anything to anyone, because I think that's where we are. And what's interesting is Jim just mentioned in the chat, which I think this could be very possible. He said, I think Miami's going to surprise and go with Parsons at 6 and then get Tony or another top wide receiver at 18. They could go and surprise everybody. It's not out of the question.
That's more realistic than Zach Wilson, because let's be honest. Here's the thing. If Miami wanted a quarterback, they're staying at 3. Now, maybe they'll get Zach Wilson, but I doubt they're trading back to 6 because, picks 1 and 2 are going to be quarterback. If San Francisco wants 3, they want a quarterback. Pick 4 is a chance to be quarterback, and maybe Cincinnati trades to a team. So it drives you batty. I mean, there's just no thought process. Like, where did they come up with this? I don't know. Okay, Skip Bayless. Now what he said isn't necessarily dumb, and I'll give Skip credit. He's consistent because he's been on the anti-Tua train since day one. And you might not agree with him, but I'll give him credit for being consistent. He's non-wavering. So he gets a little bit of kudos for that. Skip Bayless said he couldn't believe Miami traded out of the 3 because they had to take a quarterback at number 3 to replace Tua Tagovailoa. He thinks they won't now at 6, obviously, but he's shocked and astounded and mystified how Miami traded down, which I might not agree with that, but I'll give Skip credit. He's consistent. He ain't flip-flopping ever.
Sometimes these people just don't like certain players, and it's going to stick with them their entire career. So these same people that are saying Tua is not going to be successful this year, it doesn't matter how good he ends up being, he will never be good enough in their eyes. And that's just the way it is with him.
They start from the stance, I don't like this player. Then they work back from that. How can I knock him? And there's always going to be something to knock.
Yep.
Once again, somebody can say he's the best quarterback on planet Earth. Skip Bayless will say, yeah, but he sucks on Mars. So there's no compliment that's good enough. It's always going to be something where you can knock a guy. But Skip, that one, I can't get on Skip so much because, look, everyone doesn't have to love Tua Tagovailoa, okay? People can sort of knock him and say stuff like that. I don't have a problem with that as long as they have – I mean, he doesn't really have much to support it, but at least it's okay. He's consistent. Now, the last one really is a little bit more of a hot topic because it came from a national commentator who is also a fan of the Dolphins, and that's Joy Taylor, the sister of Jason Taylor, who's on Fox Sports all the time, usually with Colin Cowherd, and she was filling in on another show. And I think fans of the Dolphins were way too rough on her. And I have to stand up here for Joy Taylor because I thought Joy Taylor, with what she said, sometimes the truth hurts, and she wasn't necessarily wrong. And for those of you who didn't see it, once again, we have the video up on our website. She said, heading into last year's draft, she had questions about him because of his hip injury, obviously Tua and his hip injury, and she was a little nervous. Then he got on the field, and she wasn't. And this is, once again, one person's opinion. Fans, you can't flip out on if it's support. And she's a fan. She follows. She watches every game. So she's not one of these people commenting from afar. She actually watches the games. She said last year she saw no wow factor with Tua. I would say in the Arizona game we saw a wow factor. But yes, that was pretty much one game. In the other games, there really was no wow factor. She mentioned how he was benched twice, which she said was wrong and the wrong way to do things, which I support that 100%. And, if it was her, once again, just one person's opinion, she would have stayed at 3 and taken a quarterback instead of trading down. Okay, that's a fine opinion. And I know some people found videos of her a year ago where she was kind of saying the opposite, which her defense is, look, people change their mind. I had one opinion at one time. I saw last season. Now I've changed my mind. And it's not a mortal sin to change your mind. So Joy Taylor, again, you might not agree with what she says, but I think all the fans just attacking her, calling her, names, and just sort of piling on, I don't think it's fair because I don't think she's necessary. Her opinion isn't that far-fetched in my eyes. You know what? Sometimes you have to look inside, and maybe what she's saying has a lot of truth to it. It might not be all truth, and you might not agree, but there might be a lot of truth to what she said.
Yeah, and I'm a very optimistic person. I'm a very positive person, and we've talked about this, Mike. But the fact of the matter is, Tua was not at the level he needed to be last year, and that's the honest truth. And I think even the people who are most positive about him will say the exact same thing, and the people who no longer want him to be in the that they no longer want him to be the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, they would say that as well. He was not as effective as he needed to be. Does that mean I'm negative towards Tua? Absolutely not. I want him to be successful. We've all said that. But that's kind of what Joy was saying. He was not effective last year, but we all know the reasons behind that, right? And I think there's this fight amongst some of these national media members, and that fight is give him another year versus get rid of him and don't give him another year. And I say, give the kid another year. Let's see all these rookies from last year now playing in their second year in the NFL with the preseason, with the training camp, and see where it goes. And if by the end of this year, he doesn't show a good leap in his second year, then we start having some conversations, because then he's had the entire off season. He's had a training camp. He's been able to mesh with everybody. He's gotten additional weapons, which we're expecting him to get, in this upcoming draft. So I get, but here's what I will say about the Miami Dolphins fan base. And this, I love the Miami Dolphins fan base. If anybody on Twitter, and it could be anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, starts talking negatively about one of our players that we feel is a negativity towards one of our players, we're going to protect our players. And that's just that's part of being a great fan base, I think. Now we have to be careful with how we do that, right? Because we don't want to be disrespectful.
You can't be overzealous. You can't be rude. You can't be
correct.
She also said that, George. She goes, look, she said, her words, she would have stayed at 3 and taken a quarterback. She understands now they moved down. That's not going to happen. She said Tua gets this year, and they're going to add him weapons. They already added a couple, and they're going to add weapons in the draft and build around him. But what she said is the same thing you said. He only gets this year. We're not going to give this kid 3, 4, 5 years because, like we went through with Ryan Tannehill, he only gets this year. And if he doesn't prove it this year, then we probably are going to move on. And guess what? She's right. She's not wrong. So once again, fans of Dolphins, I understand when someone attacks one of our own guys and stuff like that, you want to jump up and sort of shout them down. But Joy Taylor wasn't the one, because you might not agree with it, but she's not necessarily wrong either. And if she was, trust me, Ian, you know me, I'd be out there saying she was. I'd be calling her name.
Absolutely. No, I know. And you've had some arguments with top NFL analysts, so it's all good.
I've gone at before, and it's not been fun. But I won't pull a punch, but she doesn't deserve it. And so, guys, everyone relax. It's okay. Not everyone has to love Tua, okay? There is such a thing as fair criticism. And when it's fair, you have to recognize it's fair. And I'll say, okay, I don't agree, but we'll see. Because guess what? Here's the great thing. They're going to be a full slate of games this year. And someone's going to be right, and someone's going to be wrong. There's going to be winners, there's going to be losers. And if we're on the wrong side of this, we'll have to accept we had the wrong opinion, the wrong stance, take the L, and move on. That's all. That's how it works. We're only talking sports here. Don't go attacking people personally and stuff. Start calling them names. It's not necessary.
Agreed.
All right. It's that time in the show, everybody. It's time for Manscaped.
Oh, yeah. Very nice.
And Ian, with the first pick of the 2021 men's grooming draft, Ball Saxonville Sagwires. The Ball Saxonville Sagwires select Manscaped.com, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. Looks like Mel Kiper gave this an A+ grade because this pick is a major upgrade for that Bush defense. And for all NFL fans, we have an exclusive 20% off promo code. Go to Manscaped.com and use the promo code Dolphins Talk. Save 20% off your order and get free shipping. That's right. You get 20% off your order, and you will get free shipping.
Can you just remind me of the team name? Was that Ball Saxonville?
Ball Saxonville Sagwires. So with the first pick, let me read it again. With the first pick of the 2021 men's grooming draft, the Ball Saxonville Sagwires select Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. And it looks like Mel Kiper gave this an A+ grade because this pick is a major upgrade for that Bush defense. So there. I didn't stumble over it the second time.
You did great. I couldn't hold it together. Thank you so much for reading that. I'm so glad you're reading it and I'm not.
Just for folks who know, I have a piece of paper. I don't write this stuff. Okay, so although I wish I did because that's genius work. Honestly, these people are like not paying enough. That is teaching me for Hallmark or something. I don't know. And they have such great products over at Manscaped.com, like the Crop Preserver, the anti-chafing ball deodorant that ensures your balls smell amazing, the Crop Reviver, the spray-on toner for your balls. Yep, you heard that right. It's made with a soothing aloe with hazel extracts that will make your balls feel like Tom Brady after a little avocado tequila. That might be the greatest line ever. And they got so many other great products like the Lawnmower 3.0. They got the Weed Whacker and everything. So when you go to manscaped.com, use the promo code Dolphins Talk, like our friend Carlos Hernandez, who we love. He said he needs a lawnmower. Carlos, you might want to keep that to yourself. I don't know. Go to manscaped.com, use the promo code Dolphins Talk. You will get 20% saved, whether it's a small order of either $6, $7, $8, or it's a larger order of $20, $30, $40. You get 20% and free shipping no matter what it is. So everyone go to manscaped.com, use the promo code Dolphins Talk. That might have been our best one ever. Yeah, I love it.
They got to keep giving you some of these.
They gotta
get my blonde reaction because I know we didn't practice it first.
Yeah, I know. They send us usually 2 to 3 at a time. So I do have
nice.
I got 1 or 2 more that we haven't used yet that we'll be using in future weeks. Let's talk about the pro days. Now we'll get to what should Miami do at pick number 6. So this past week there was a couple pro days, and Jamar Chase, who sat out the 2020 season, went out there, looked like he didn't miss a beat. Jamar Chase, absolute monster, and I think sort of solidified himself as the number 1 wide receiver in this draft. Kyle Pitts, the tight end, in a league where tight ends have become more of a weapons and more sort of that chess piece that if you have a great one, like teams like the Chiefs or San Francisco and other teams do, it's kind of tough to get a matchup on them because they're too big and too fast for linebackers, but they're too shifty also for like a safety, or they're too large to be covered by a cornerback and stuff. You just sort of got this mismatch. Kyle Pitts went out there and he killed it as well. And I think when Miami went down to pick 6, the thought process was they'd probably be able to get one of those guys. And right now there's a lot of chatter. Again, pre-draft chatter. You don't know what to believe, what not. But I think some of this might actually be true. And you're starting to hear things like Cincinnati, who everyone thought in the world needs an offensive line because how Joe Burrow got beaten like a drum last year. A couple things to remember. There's 3 things to remember with Cincinnati, Ian. Number 1, they took Jonah Williams at pick number 11 in 2019. That is not that long ago to play left tackle. They got one of their tackles locked up for a few more years. They used a high pick on him. They're not going to, punt on him so soon. So they got 1 tackle done. 2, they just paid Riley Reif. Riley Reif is 32, but they gave him a good chunk of change. So at least for this upcoming year, they plan on him being one of the other tackles. Actually, there's 4 points. I'm going to go to point number 3 is this is a deep offensive tackle draft. Cincinnati can pass on offensive tackle in round 1 and probably still get a very, very good offensive tackle at the top of round 2. There's 3. And the 4th point, and I said this on a podcast I did earlier this week with Dante Collinelli, and I want to stress this enough because some fans have been saying Cincinnati just has to take an offensive tackle. They just have to. Dumb organizations do dumb things. And the Cincinnati Bengals have been a dumb organization for 20-plus years. And if you think that changed overnight, they got the same owner who's dumb, who does dumb hires and dumb things. They are known for doing dumb things, and there's no logic behind what they do. So if you think they have to take an offensive tackle, don't, because if there's a team that will screw it up, it's the Cincinnati Bengals. So just keep that in mind. It's not like, if this were the Pittsburgh Steelers or if this was like the Giants, okay, that's a team teams that have made wide decisions over the last 20 or 30 years. You expect them to do the logical thing. With Cincinnati, there's no logic involved. They'll do the illogical thing. So Cincinnati doesn't have to take Penei Sewell or Slater. They could go wide receiver and tight end. It might not make sense to you or me or anybody else in the world, but they could do that, Ian.
I still think they're going to go Sewell. And here's what my thought process is to that. They just used their first pick in the NFL draft on Joey Burrow last year. He got murdered behind that offensive line. That's the reason why he ended up going out on a season-ending injury. They need to shore up that offensive line before they put him back out there again. Because again, they didn't waste, but they spent a significant draft pick on this kid. And you've got to make sure that he's protected. And I'll tell you, he was running for his life most of the games that he was playing. So, and I know that was last year, and I know they've got some reinforcements again this year, but you've got, it's great if you get a wide receiver, but if your quarterback doesn't get more than 2 seconds in the pocket, it's not going to matter who you got at quarterback or who you have at wide receiver. You're just never going to be able to get the ball down the field to him.
Here's a question for you, though, and this is what they're probably talking about right now, and they will be talking about for the next month. What's the trade-off? We get Chase. Let's say it's Chase at number 5, number 1 wide receiver. He went to the same school as Joe Burrow. Okay. He's the top wide receiver in the class. Then with if they have the second pick or second or third pick in round 2, somewhere like that, we take an offensive tackle then. And what's the gap between a wide receiver 1 in Chase and like the 4th or 5th wide receiver off the board? Is that a small gap or a wide gap? And what's the gap between like Sewell or Slater 5 and the offensive tackle we get at the top of round 2? And then flip it. If we take Sewell at 1 at pick number 5 and then a wide receiver with the pick in the second round, what's the gap? So they could make the case, Chase is so far and away better than every other wide receiver. We want him. And the gap between Penei Sewell and the 4th best offensive tackle is really close. They're like really close. They're not that far apart in their eyes with their scouting team. Maybe they could justify it that way. And guess what? That actually makes sense. I mean, it's not the worst plan in the world because you're still getting, look, at the top of round 2, you're still getting a really good offensive tackle or a offensive guard. So you're still addressing your offensive line, but you're also adding the top wide receiver. So there is some logic to that theory. Now, I know, if for me, and I did have Joe Burrow, number 1 overall pick in the draft, I'd probably want the best offensive lineman first because their wide receivers actually aren't even that bad.
Right. Exactly. They actually, I know they just they released or traded their top wide receiver,
AJ Green.
AJ Green. Yeah, I forget which. Did he go to Arizona? He went to Arizona, right?
They still have T. Higgins, so they took in round 2 last year, was really good as a rookie, and Tyler Boyd. So they still have 2 good wide receivers, but obviously you want as many quality playmakers when you have a quarterback like Joe Burrow as possible. So I get that logic, and that might be something. And with Pitts, look, they could also go Pitts if he's on the board too, which I can't not. I mean, once again, this, everyone's sort of calling him a unicorn and all that stuff. I get it. I think he's a matchup nightmare, and it does sort of come down to what Atlanta does because nobody knows what Atlanta will do it for. Will they go quarterback and start to groom Matt Ryan's replacement, although they just restructured Matt Ryan's deal? Nobody knows. Will they say, even though we got 2 stud wide receivers, Julio Jones getting up there in years, the heck with it. We'll take Chase anyways. We'll have a 3rd or Pitts to put that big-time tight end with our 2 great wide receivers, and we'll just try to outscore people every week. That makes sense too. Who knows? Nobody knows. And that's what we're going to find out because Todd McShay did a mock draft this Thursday morning. He released it, and number 4 was Pitts. Number 5 was Chase. Yeah, and as part of our comment said, yeah, they might stay with Matt Ryan, but do they want to get the next guy ready to go like the Packers did last year with Jordan Love?
Right.
So they might want to get that next guy ready for in a year or 2 from now, he's ready to go.
So my thinking is the Dolphins will still have their pick of wide receiver or tight end, and I do think that is their number 1 priority that they need to use their number 6 pick with. And I've been watching the pro days, been very, very impressed with this wide receiver group. They've all, the ones that we've seen have looked very, very good. And I wasn't really high on drafting a tight end at the number 6 spot, but I've seen a lot of positive comments. I've seen the videos. I've heard that his wingspan is equal to the wingspan of Megatron, right? From Detroit, went back in the day. So if you could have that guy, he's almost a hybrid tight end wide receiver, and he's always got the mismatch because they're putting a linebacker traditionally or a safety on that type of player. So that may be the route. And then again, too, as you've mentioned, the wide receiver draft, the wide receivers in this draft go pretty deep into the second round as well. So if the Dolphins still feel that they need to add a wide receiver, they can still get one in the second round. So,
or even a pick 18.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the deep wide receiver draft.
So Keith just asked, and I thought that's a good question. If Cincinnati does not take Sewell, do we? And I say, and I wouldn't. And here's why. I wouldn't because, we got all these guys last year. We got these rookies last year, and many of them were in the first 2 rounds. And we have to give them that opportunity to grow together. And I think we have greater needs in other spots to be that high in the draft. Some people would disagree with that, and that's fine. Again, I never say that I'm a general manager or overly knowledgeable. It's just my opinion of the matter. But I think that we need a wide receiver, a pass catcher more right now than we need an offensive line that high in the draft.
I talk about this with Tom all the time when I do shows with them in the offseason, especially. It's about roster construction and allocation of resources. And last year, the Miami Dolphins went heavy with signing Eric Flowers, signing Ted Karras, drafting Austin Jackson in round 1, Robert Hunt at the top of round 2, and then Solomon Kinley, what they trade up for in round 4. That's a lot of allocation of resources in the offensive line. You can't do that every year because you're just ignoring every other position. So, and for the people who say you have to give Tua Tagovailoa more of an opportunity, you got to give more. Same goes for Austin Jackson. Same goes for Solomon Kinley. Same goes for Robert Hunt. Let's see what they do. Excuse me, what they do this upcoming year, and then then we make a decision of how many of those guys might need to be replaced, or do we need to add something to them. So I'm with you. I wouldn't take. They need an offensive lineman, but I'm not going to take it at 6, and I'm not going to take it at 18. Okay,
agreed.
So if they want to take it in round 2, like find a guard or a center, especially a center, all for it. Anything after round 1, I'm fine with. Round 1, we've allocated so much in this offensive line. It's time to address other areas of the team. And I think wide receiver, if they don't get Pitts or Chase and end up with Smith or Waddle, that's fine. I think those guys are going to be good NFL players. I will say this, though. In 3 years, let's say, Kyle Pitts is like a superstar in the Pro Bowl every year. Same with Chase. Chris Greer is going to – we're all going to look back at this trade and say Miami could have had either one of them. And Chris Greer – he did it for an extra first-round pick in 2023, essentially, which hopefully we hit on. But if not, we're going to be talking about this like the Drew Brees situation we've been talking about for 20 years. Okay, so if those guys turn out to be, bona fide superstars, and we take Waddle or Smith, who's a nice player, even if they're a good player, let's say they're a solid player, but they're not Pitts and Chase, in 3 to 4 years, we will be looking back saying, we screwed this up maybe.
Yeah, and one last comment about taking Pitts over anyone else. Rarely do you get a tight end that has that much talent, right? And that has that size.
Yeah.
It's very rare. And remember too, how many tight ends are you allowed on a team? Not too many, right? Compared to the wide receivers, usually
about 4. Yeah,
right. And usually on the wide receiver side, you'll see about 5 or 6, right?
6, yeah.
So if you're looking at it from that angle, if you could find a top tier tight end, that's going to be more valuable than a top tier wide receiver, just because there's fewer tight ends in the NFL and there's fewer. So again, it's going to be interesting to see. I have no idea what they're going to end up doing. So I think at number 18, and I still strongly believe this. I know everyone really, really wants Najee at number 18, but I do not think the Dolphins are going to take a running back with the number 18 pick. I think they're either going to go edge or they're going to go linebacker. And I think they're going to choose a running back somewhere in the second round. Now, I'm going to give you a little rewind from about a year ago when we were having a similar conversation. And I said I expected the Dolphins to take a running back in the first 2 rounds. And I totally messed that up. So who knows? Who knows if they do? But here's what I know. They do not value the running backs like some other teams.
They do not.
And that's the Patriot way, right? Patriots do not value the running back position like some other teams do. So it wouldn't surprise me at all. Would I be a little upset? I don't know if I'd be upset. I would love Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Javonte, right? I'd love any one of those guys, but the Dolphins may choose to go in other directions.
Yeah, I think, and I've sort of been, on all the shows we've done here the past month, I've been preparing fans. Look, I want the Dolphins to take a running back, either at 18 or 36. But what I want don't mean a hill of beans. And What they do is 2 different things. And do I think they will? No, I don't. I don't think they'll take it 18. 36 is possible. I know I've seen Omar Kelly from the Sun Sentinel on social media. He's saying the same thing. Look, what he wants at 18 might not happen. He thinks there probably won't go running back there. And it might be a tough pill for some fans to swallow in that we might see Najee Harris end up with the Jets or Bills. And you might see Travis Etienne with the other one. So we could be seeing those guys inside the AFC East twice a year. I put more value on the running back than most, only because, once again, Tua Tagovailoa, make or break year. Fair enough, it is. I want to give this kid every opportunity to be the best. And I think a solid running game with those guys who I think are higher-end running backs, and then you put them with Myles Gaskin, Salvon Ahmed, Malcolm Brown. I think that's a nice running back room. If we go into the year with Malcolm Brown, Salvon Ahmed, Myles Gaskin, and some kid we pick around 3 or 4, it's going to be a little tougher. We'll see, though. No use getting upset about it now because it hasn't happened yet.
Yep.
So the other thing I'll say about Pitts, Ian, can you imagine him on the field lining up side by side with Mike Gesicki? And
that'd be pretty cool.
Well, the opponents do, because both those guys can get down the field and make plays. I think it'll be fun to watch if it happens. I don't know if it's going to happen again. I don't know. I think pick number 6 might. I think there's a better chance Chase falls to Miami than Pitts. I think Pitts, when it's all said and done, could go 4 or 5. I think Chase, there's a chance Chase falls to 6. My opinion, we'll see. But if it is Pitts in Miami, him and Mike Gesicki side by side, oh my God.
So, Mike, are we going to have to make a celebratory video of everyone if Pitts is called to the Miami Dolphins? Do you think it's going to be that exciting for the Miami Dolphins fan base?
That's what I'll be doing. I'll be putting on my foam finger, going, yeah!
I love the practicing, man. I love the practicing.
Already. But, but we'll see. And if it is Smith or Waddle, look, those guys are good players, too. It's not nothing to hang your head about. And fans, it is what it is. They're going to help tremendously. They're really going to help tremendously. So, one other thing before we get to the fun part of the show here to close. There's been some talk. We're saying, well, if Pitts or Chase are off the board, come pick 6, trade down again to either 8 or 9 with the Panthers or the Broncos, and they're going to want to move up to get a quarterback. I don't think it's going to happen, because if you're the Panthers or Broncos, and that means quarterbacks probably went 1, 2, and 3. Pitts and Chase are gone. And, Miami's not taking a quarterback. Why would they need to trade up? I think they're both going to get a quarterback at 8 and 9. I don't see the Lions taking one at 7, because they have so many picks as well in the future they got from the Rams. If they wanted somebody in this year's class, they would have traded up already. So I don't think they're going to have to trade up to pick 6 to get a quarterback. So I don't see that happening. Not that I wouldn't love it to happen. I just don't see it happening. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, Ian.
All right. So we need to get our listeners and watchers involved. Yeah. They're going to have to rate. They're going to have to rate how I do with these. All right. So 10 being the best, 1 being the worst.
On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the worst, and 10 being the best. So Ian Berger has been blessed with the opportunity to read off the Miami Dolphins picks rounds 4 through 7 on day 3 of the NFL draft, and we have to get our friend Ian ready, because as you know, it'd be great if in round 4 the Miami Dolphins select Joe Smith. Or it'd be great in round 5 if the Miami Dolphins select Frank Jones or whatever. It'd be easy name to read off. But as we know, there's a lot of players who have unique names, one-of-a-kind names. And what is Ian going to do when they hand him a card and he's got like 10 seconds to get ready to read off a name that looks like a bunch of letters on an eye chart that he can't make heads or tails of? And I'm sure there's someone there to give them a frenetic thing, but still some of these names are complicated. So each week from now to the draft, we're going to help prepare our friend Ian here to read off some of these names. And I found 3 names. We're going to do 3 names a show.
Oh boy.
And I found 3 good ones. I will. So I told you earlier this afternoon. You ain't know what you're in store for. So
hold on. So I have to say, like, with the whatever pick, I have to go through it, and then you're going to show it up.
Here's how it's going to work. For those of you watching, you're going to be able to see the name on the screen. If you're listening to this podcast, just audio form after, you're not going to understand what's on the screen, obviously, but we're going to talk about it, so it'll make sense. So there might be a few seconds with each one of these pictures, like, what the hell's going on? But we're going to explain it. So let's do round 4. So, Ian, I'm going to put a name up on the screen.
Not yet. Hold on. I'm gonna go through the speech, and then as soon as I get to they pick, then you show it on the screen. Okay.
Deal.
All
so
right.
You go, and I'm ready to click.
Okay. So I'm walking up to the podium, really excited. Fins up, everybody.
Roger Goodell, what's up, buddy?
In the 2021 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select with their 156th pick Adekunle Ogundeji, defensive end out of Notre Dame.
Okay.
So how did I do? 1 out of 10? Adekunle Ogundeji, defensive end out of Notre Dame. So everybody has to rate me, right? 1 to 10?
Yeah, and here's how the name should be said. The first name, you actually surprised the heck out of me. Adekunle Ogundeji.
Ogundeji. All right, I got some 6s and some 8s from the folks.
That's fair. I thought that'd be the toughest one I was going to throw at you, and I came out of the gate strong. Okay. Adekunle Ogundeji from Notre Dame. He's actually a pretty good player. Probably will get picked, late in the draft. Okay. You did great on the first name. So, yeah, I'd probably give you a 6 or a 7. I'd probably give you almost an 8 maybe there.
Thank you. All right. Oh, I got a 1 from Joe. Thank you. All right. So let's do this. Let's do this again. All right. So in the 2021 NFL draft with pick number 156, the Miami Dolphins select Kakala Kaniho, cornerback out of Boise State.
Did you practice that one?
No. I just how'd I do?
That's spot on. I thought that'd be tough for the first name.
Joseph's still going to give me a 1. I can guarantee it.
Right there. That's a 10. Ian, it's a 10. You might get like a 8 from the Russian judges, but that's a 10. Okay.
Kakalo Kaniho. It actually sounds Samoan. It sounds like it's from the islands.
It might be. I don't know much about it. I was just looking for wild names. I'm not going to lie.
I like that. I like it. Excellent.
That's a good one. And the last one.
Okay, ready? With the 258th pick in the NFL 2021 draft, the Miami Dolphins select Kene Nwangwu, running back out of Iowa State.
Oh my God, Ian, you did better than I thought. Okay, you know what that means? I got to find more challenging ones next week. I'm finding more challenging ones.
So that was right, Kene Nwangwu.
Kene Nwangwu. Yeah, I mean
Nwangwu. All right. Nice. Look I'm getting 10s and 9s.
Yeah,
Joseph gave me a 10 last time, by the way. So I think you might give me a good one this time.
You killed it, and that means the onus is on me now to find more challenging ones, and I will.
I know you will. I know you will.
It took me today literally 3 minutes to find those 3 names. I thought they were challenging. I thought Adekumbo Ogundeje was. I mean, that's a lot of letters put together. And I didn't even. I mean, that was a tough one. But okay, next week. Challenge is on me to find some stronger ones, but you did great. And
thank you.
That was great, outstanding. And all these are guys, who might go probably around 6 or 7. Most of these guys will probably go, so they could be in your wheelhouse. And any of these names we practice, if it actually happens, when you go up there to read it, I'm going to be dying in my house. It's like, we practiced that one and he got it. What's the odds?
That would actually, so we're going to have to go back to the recording.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's going to be so much fun.
We're going to put that out on YouTube, Facebook. We're going to slice that out, Twitter.
He knew it.
We called it. Nostradamus. Yeah, that would be absolutely. Yeah, and as our friend Joy said, challenge accepted. You're right, Joy. Now I got a week to prepare. And I'm going to find some doozies because there are some doozies out there, trust me, of some little-known guys and some little-known schools nobody's heard of who aren't the guys that sometimes get picked late day 3 of the draft. So, Ian, that's all I got for today. You got anything else you want to add?
Yeah, so I just want to bring up the Dolphins Challenge Cancer event real quick because it's actually 8 days away, Saturday, April 10th. First of all, I do want to thank I've had over 140 individuals make donations, which is just it's unbelievable. It really is. And I am just so proud to be able to say that I'm representing the Dolphins fan base because I feel like everybody's rooting me on, and some people gave $5 and I've had a couple people give some pretty significant donations. And I'm just really, really appreciative of that. So I am in the chat. I am just going to add the link if anybody is interested, and anybody can. Obviously, if you've done it already, don't do it again, please. I just want to say thank you again to everyone. My goal is now at 7,500. The first day, Mike, just so you know, I made a goal of $250.
Oh, you want to pass that in 8 minutes?
Yeah. So, but that was my goal. My goal was to hit $250, and they actually said if you didn't make the $250, then you'd have to pay it yourself. And that's kind of like it was kind of part of the deal. And I was like, all right, I'll figure that out. It's worth it, right? It's worth it. What you
put in for, they expect that money one way or another. They have to prepare for how much they will get at least. So
correct. Because I'm going to the event. And that was the other reason, because I'm going to the event. Some people who don't go to the event can raise money virtually, and there's zero minimum for them. So with that, I raised it to 500, and then we blew away 500. Then I raised it to 1,000. I raised it to 2 to 3. And then I overdid it and I raised it to 10. And I was like, I think that's just way too far. Although my eyes were open pretty wide. So I said 7,500 is going to be my ultimate goal. I'm excited about it. And this is honest when I say this, Mike. I've never raised funds in my life. I've gone to about 20 or 30 walkathons, and I've always been the guy to write a check and say, I'm writing this check so that I can walk today. Yeah. And so this one, because it does hit close to home with my mom, I felt it was important to get in. And my wife and I have been walking about 2 miles every night when I get home. So I'm getting my exercise, and the walk is 5K. So it's about 3.2 miles. So it's not a big deal. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. And for those of you who want to hear more about the Miami Dolphins Challenge Cancer, check out our podcast from earlier this week with Jesse Marks, the executive director for the Miami Dolphins Foundation and for the Dolphins Challenge Cancer event. Great interview, a lot of information. You can find out more about all the money they raise, where it goes. You can find out if you want to participate. Even if you don't live in South Florida, there's ways to participate online and virtually. You can participate that way. And I will say, as I said on with Jesse the other night, I've happened to be down there, not last year because of obviously the virus and stuff, but the previous 2 years, 2018, 2019, I've happened to be down there at the game on the week where they hand over the big check to Mr. Ross and stuff. And I've had a chance to talk to some of the doctors and talk to some of the cancer survivors who all this money will help save their lives. And when they're all on the field together at halftime and they play the video board or this package that's so well done, and streamers coming out, and because people's lives are saved by this. We all like football at the end of the day, but this is the stuff that really matters. And you see the tears coming down their face, and they're crying, and they're hugging each other. And it's so moving. And I've been there up close to talk to those people, interview a few of them. It's just awesome. It's just awesome. And the work they do is awesome. So if you can just donate even $1 or $2, I know the past couple of years, the economy's been tough. And obviously with the virus, people have been hit hard. If you can't give, we get it. We understand. Don't. Put food on your families. All that stuff's more important. We get it.
Absolutely.
But if you can give just $1 or $2, if you want to give $5, great. Whatever you can give a little. Go to Ian's social media pages. You can find the link up on our website at dolphinstalk.com under our interview with Jesse Marks. He'll lead you straight to Ian's page where you can make the donation under Ian's name and all that stuff. Give $1 or $2 if you can. If you can't, we get it.
I understand. Yeah, and I've never been one to ask. It's just about if you can, you can. If you can't, I understand too.
We get it, because everyone's situation is not the same. But if you can give a little, and even if it's a little, please do, because the money does go to help people who need it in a fight for cancer, which that's just luck of the draw, man. Anyone could get it. That's just a bad hand in life you're dealt. So people who need that, it does help those people big time.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes, absolutely. That is, it was a great interview. Once again, thank you to Jesse Marks from the Miami Dolphins for joining us earlier this week. Now, everyone, here's the time for plugs. Be sure to go to the website, dolphinstalk.com. We got a bunch of new audio. We got a bunch of new video. We got a bunch of new articles. You want mock drafts? We got more mock drafts than probably any site out there. We got mock drafts coming out the yin yang. I'm going to put one up tonight, another mock draft from one of our writers. And it's check out dolphinstalk.com. Be sure to follow us on Twitter. Follow Ian at Ian693. Follow myself at Dolphins Talk. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page. We keep pounding the table about this because we want to build and grow, because we are putting up more and more content every day on YouTube. Just this afternoon, we put up a 2020 Devontae Parker highlight video on YouTube. This show is going to be on YouTube. So if you're listening to this on Friday or Thursday night, but you want to actually see us talk, because we're two handsome guys. We're regular Redford and Newman over here in their heyday. You want to see us on YouTube, go to our YouTube page. Go to YouTube, search Dolphins Talk, or search dolphinstalk.com. It'll come up. You see my orange little logo with our website logo. Click it, subscribe, follow us there. There'll be a bunch of new videos and a bunch of new podcasts and stuff. Check that out. What else? Trying to think. I think that's it. You want to follow Tom? I'm going to throw Tom a plug because I love Tom's.
Yeah, absolutely. Love Tom.
From another mother. Me and Tom, we're great. And so Tom, follow him on Twitter at Dolphins Talk Tom. And get ready, folks, because we're in April and the draft's not far away. And the most entertaining show I did last year, and I do a lot of these shows. After each night of the draft, Tom and me, for the past, 6 or 7 years, we do a show. After night 1, we talk about Miami's picks. After night 2, we talk about Miami's picks. After night 3, we talk about Miami's picks. Tom and me we do this every year. It's one of our little things we love to do. Tom Ernest last year, like you, wanted a running back. And night 1 went really long, and Tom had a long day at work. So he was a little grumpy with 3 picks. We took Noah Igbinani. We didn't take a running back. He was agitated. Okay, I go, Tom, we still got 2 picks tomorrow night. Who knows? If we trade maybe more, we're going to get a running back night 2. Night 2 comes, night 2 goes. Was another long day for Tom, another late night with the draft. No running.
He's grumpier, Tom, right? Grumpier.
Grumpy Tom on steroids. Tom was so annoyed. I always say, if you need a laugh, you find those 2 shows from 2020 of just myself and Tom, and just listen to Tom rant. One, he's almost half asleep. He's so tired. Ranting and raving how we didn't take a running back. So this year, it's part 2. And I don't think they're taking one in round 1. We'll see what happens in round 2. We might get another Tom Hennessy explosion where he is.
We need a grumpy Tom like meter. That's what we're going to need during the draft. Grumpy Tom meter. So
yeah, we got to get some graphics.
So my final word, I have to give some love to the Nacho crew. They know who they are. Tara mentioned Nacho, so I gotta give some love to those guys.
Absolutely. Hello to the Nacho crew. So everyone, if you're watching this on Thursday, have a great rest of your Thursday night. If you're listening on Friday or on the weekend, have a great. Hold on, I gotta play. I agree with Tom. Tom, you gotta. I agree with Tom, but I don't think it's gonna happen. Everyone, have a great weekend. Have a great Friday. Have a happy Easter for those of you who celebrate Easter. For those of you who celebrate Passover, happy Passover. All that good stuff. Whatever holiday, happy, whatever. Everyone, have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you again after a while.
Fins up, everybody.